Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Patrolling in Paradise, the podcast. I'm Chris Hall. I'm joined, as always, by Gabriella Ruiz. Gabriella, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
All right. We are excited to be talking here today with Jillian Treadway, communications operator, as part of our Hurricane Charley 20th anniversary coverage. Jillian, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing fantastic. How are you?
Doing all right.
So you're a unique perspective from the Hurricane Charley situation because you came on, I believe your official date of hire was real close to the actual date Charley hit. Is that correct?
It was. It was on August 10th.
August 10th, and Hurricane Charley hit on?
The 13th.
The 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
How long or how far in advance did you know your hire date as compared to the hurricane was coming?
I'm trying to think. Honestly, that's a little bit of a blur for me. I think it was just a matter of I knew I was getting hired. I knew there was something cooking out in the Gulf, and we weren't really sure where any of that was going. And then it started to really start to have a track. And then they told me my hire, they said, come in on the 10th. And I said, okay. And that was my official hire date. And then they said, hey, come in on Friday. And I went, I don't know if that's such a good idea.
The two things just kind of started to merge together.
Yeah, that cone of uncertainty looked really, really uncertain for a little bit.
Well, as long as you weren't uncertain about taking the job, that's what really matters here.
That's actually something that I always wanted. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to work in public service. My father was a firefighter.
Okay.
So he did 20 years up in Syracuse, New York in the Syracuse Fire Department. And then he said, when I said I wanted to be a firefighter originally, and he said, no, you don't, which really means, no, I don't want you to. And I said, well, how else can I serve my community?
You've been doing it now for 2 decades.
Yes.
That's an incredible thing just in itself because of how much stress there is back there, how much constant emotion you guys are struggling through. I shouldn't say struggling through because you're not struggling with it.
No, honestly. I mean, at first, absolutely. Absolutely. The first time you get a certain type of call, that's, okay, now you've been through it. And every time you go through it, it's a little bit less. Of course, there are caveats to that where some things will always be hard. But every day is a new day. Every day is something different, and you never know what you're going to get. But you learn how to adjust to it. So the stress is not so much stress. Mm-hmm. It's just, okay, so, all right, I know how to get through this. Right. So
even from an outsider perspective, I've had the opportunity to go into the communications room and kind of just listen. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to me to see one call, they're giving directions on how to give CPR, and then the next call, they're trying to get information. And it's just that quick bounce back and forth to different types of calls. I truly, truly am so appreciative of what you do.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you.
So on an average day, you deal with a call, you hang up, you move on to the next call. Mm-hmm. And as you said, you kind of learn and you get better and better as you go how to manage that, internally. Right. What was it like during Charley?
Charley was its own thing. I mean, being that it was my first day and I had no idea what I was expected to do, what the expectations were of me, rather. I went in to learn, to watch, to be, and more often than not, I was a gopher, to be honest. I mean,
Sure.
Most of the things I did was, hey, I need you to go get this for me. And I'm going, okay, where's that? But I got paper and food and water and, just kind of ran around for the most part all day. Actually, it was when we, 2 decades ago, it was when there was nowhere to send your family came to work.
Oh, wow.
So we actually, there were people that brought their family in, and there was a bunch of little kids, and they were like, oh, well, she's new. Now you're a babysitter, So I got to do that for a little while until we found out that it was coming towards us.
That's Treadway Daycare for those of you that are listening.
So we moved from this building over to the jail, which was our backup center at the time because we didn't have EOC. Mm-hmm. EOC was here in the building. It was right next to communications. But they decided that it was probably in our best interest to be in a more fortified building. So they sent us over to the jail. And that was an experience. So we actually set up communications and EOC in the hallway of the visitation hall at the jail. And between EOC and us, instead of walls, we had cardboard boxes.
Oh, wow.
So there's cardboard boxes here and cardboard boxes here, and you could walk through them. But that was the only buffer we had for sound. And let me tell you that building, that hallway is not meant for being able to hear.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And we'll be hearing from somebody from corrections later on in the show as well. But I'm glad that you could share and kind of tie those pieces together for us.
Yeah.
That's a pretty neat perspective.
Yeah, it was really a monumental, like you really solidify your first day of work. A lot of people can't really remember their first day. Oh no, I remember.
And that had to be so interesting because you're in a learning environment already when you're starting a new job.
Yep.
And then you add that layer of Hurricane Charley to it. At any point when you were kind of had a moment to regroup your thoughts, did you think, what did I get myself into?
I mean, honestly, no, I really didn't. And I think it stems back to my dad, serve your community. If you can help. And I was there to help. And I wanted to do anything that I could. Actually, I was there from about 5:30 in the morning until 11:30 at night. And they said, go home. We'll call you when we want you to come back. And I went, okay. And after that, it was a couple days later, I got a phone call. Do you still want to work here? And I said, I've just been waiting for the phone call. So, no, I mean, there was really never a point in time where I didn't want to do it. I think I just kind of knew that was where I was supposed to be.
That's your calling.
And here we are 2 decades later.
Yep.
And still saving lives every single day. It's an incredible thing.
For the most part.
And real briefly, because I know we're running out of time here, but what can you tell us about the changes or the developments that you've seen in your time here? So Charley was chaos, right? It was just absolute chaos. And now we've been through more since then. We've been through other hurricanes, other storms, other crises. Can you talk about some of those changes?
So I think the biggest change was when they built the EOC building over on Airport. That's made such an incredible difference in where, like logistically, where everybody was placed, and to be able to know that there's a plan of action, that this is coming, we know what we're going to do, and we know where everything is, what it's going to be like, and how we can best serve and even serve each other, because we have our communications room now, and we have somewhere that we can go that is absolutely, dedicated to us, to what we need to do our job to help the community. And that in itself was such a huge difference, because before it was like, okay, well, we're just going to plug some things in here and there and hope that we can answer all the phones. And now it's like, this is just another communication center for us. So it's a huge difference. It makes it so much more streamlined to be able to anticipate everything that's coming and not be worried about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen. So I think it's a lot better to have the new EOC. It's not even new anymore, but in my head it is.
Yeah. Well, 20 years is a long time. So, I mean, I know you've got more lives to save, so we're going to thank you for joining us today and for sharing this awesome perspective. And very quickly, any last words you want to share with anybody listening that may be thinking, hey, maybe I could be a dispatcher too?
Oh my gosh, do it. Do it. I cannot tell you enough, like, how meaningful it is for me to be able to get up every day for 20 years and say, I'm going to go make a difference today. And I don't think of myself as a hero. That's not what it's about. It's not that at all. It's how can I help? It's just, how can I help? How can I make a difference? How can I so many people worry about the world. Oh my gosh, what's happening to the world? This is how you make a difference. This is how you help. It's everybody making their little contribution makes the big difference for your whole community. And it starts at your community, and that's where it goes worldwide. So if you think about doing it, if you think you might want it, or even if you're just curious, the worst that can happen is it doesn't work out. So do it. Take the chance.
Well, we're
Love
certainly,
to have you.
yeah, we're certainly appreciative of the work that you do. So.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up here for this episode, or this segment of this episode, I should say, of Patrolling in Paradise, the podcast. So again, Jillian, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your stories, and thank you for the work that you do. We love when we get to talk with you guys. It's hard to get you guys out of that room,
Yeah.
but it's a pleasure for us when we get to. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We really appreciate you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Welcome back to the show. Once again, my name is Chris Hall. I'm joined by Gabriella Ruiz. Gabriella, give him another hello.
Hello, everybody.
All right, we are joined today by Tom Rodgers, Executive Director at the Charlotte County Jail. So welcome aboard, Tom. Thanks for being a part of the show today.
Thank you so much. I'm really going to enjoy it.
Yeah, we're glad that you're here. And as you know, we've already discussed, we're talking about Hurricane Charley coverage. So this was our the 20th anniversary of that terrible storm. And you were actually here with the sheriff's office back then working in the jail. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes,
So
sir.
tell us a little bit about that. What was your role? What were you doing?
I was a captain back then. And of course, with the sheriff's office, anytime there's any type of big incident, natural disaster coming, all of us have to come to work. So we were all at work, 100% of our staff, everyone was there. And my role was, as a captain, was to oversee the jail.
Okay.
Wow. So were you, because I know now when a storm hits, correction staff have to bunker down in the jail. Was it the same back then? You bunkered down for the storm in the jail?
Yes, and it was a lot different back then than what it is today. It is still accurate. 100% of our staff comes in, depending on how bad the storm's going to be. But back then, the jail was the most sound building the county had on the Punta Gorda side. So we had fire department, we had law enforcement part, as far as K-9, communications. So our jail gets pretty full back then as far as any type of natural disaster.
So this was before our emergency operations center was built.
That is correct.
So everybody had to go to the jail.
Everyone was there. Yes, that is correct.
We're looking all the way back on the golden days there. That was a beautiful time when Charley hit and everything got uprooted, essentially. So EOC's not there. You said everybody comes and sets up at the jail. How does that work when you've got a jail full of inmates?
Well, they're not in a secure part of the jail. Everyone's on the outside and the unsecure part of it. Like we had a big hallway on the second floor of the jail that was there for visitation, video visitation, or in-person visits, but there's glass in between the security.
Mm-hmm.
So most of our support staff and stuff like that would go up to that hallway. That's where communications set up. So they weren't in with the jail operation. So it really didn't affect the inmate population.
That's a good thing. And
Yes,
you don't want them
definitely.
commingling.
No. Just more risk at that point. So
And I'm assuming after the storm, trying to not only deal with the security of inmates, but was there power loss and things like that? Logistically, what goes into that post-storm?
Well, the post-storm, looking at Charley and looking back, I started in 1993. We had no storms from that point until 2004. The sheriff's office is excellent about having plans, procedures, and everything to cover different things that you could be exposed to. But I don't think any of us could plan for the significance of Hurricane Charley.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of stuff was actually developed during the storm.
Mm-hmm.
Different ideas, different innovations to make it easier for us to operate. And it was pretty much on the second sometimes. One night we lost our generator and it was dark. So
Whoa.
when the generator goes out, we only had one back then. We lost the generator and all the emergency lights kick on, but with a jail that size and everything concrete, it was still dark. 50% of our staff is working any given time. 50% is resting. That particular night, I was resting. It was late at night, and I'd worked all day. Generator goes off, emergency lights kick on. Staff are jumping up, running like crazy because they automatically knew that if we lose power, then we've got to go add extra security to the pods in all areas within the jail, and that's exactly what they did.
Wow.
And they had to get dressed, of course, as best they could and run out there. Myself, and this is a funny story. I shouldn't be telling this.
Here we go.
Myself here.
Where's my sensor?
I was the only one there that night. I was the highest rank in the captain. The major was not there that night. and the generator goes off. So I don't even get dressed. So I'm in a pair of shower slides, shorts, and a T-shirt. I run to where the generator is. My number one priority is to find out what's going on. How quick can we get this fixed? Is it an issue that's going to be long-term, short-term? So I go to the generator. The county's already out there, and they're looking at it. And basically, it came down to a part that we needed, and they're trying to figure out a way to get a part. Well, in the meantime, communications knew we had lost the generator. So protocol, we have to have an outside perimeter. You lose power in a jail, you've got to provide security staff around the entire perimeter of the jail, just in case. Well, I didn't think anything about it, and I'm sitting there at the generator, and all of a sudden, a deuce and a half shows up. And a bunch of military guys start jumping out in full uniform with helmets, M16s, everything. And the commander jumps out and comes running towards us and says, "Who's in charge?" I'm looking, saying, "Oh my God, I'm going to have to say me," and I'm in shower slides, shorts, and a T-shirt. So I said me, and he's probably telling that same story today too, saying, "You would not believe the guy that was in charge of that jail back then in Charley."
Running around in slippers and shorts.
Yes, but what a night that was. But they fixed the generator, everything got back to normal. But you know, the biggest thing back then, we had the generator only ran basic necessities, no air conditioning, no nothing. So when you have a jail like that built out of concrete, you can imagine how quick, especially in August, how quick it gets hot inside that jail.
Oh, sure.
Humidity starts building up. The floors got slick. And I don't remember who came up with the idea, but it was ingenious, and it was a simple idea. Someone put a hairnet on their shoes, and that protected them from slipping. So, of course, we immediately got hairnets out to everyone so they didn't slip and fall on the concrete.
Yeah.
It's just incredible, some of the ideas and stuff that come up, even in a crisis when everyone's probably thinking about their family and their houses, but they're still thinking about what can make our operations safe and secure.
Yeah. Now, I don't know, it sounds like a lot of the procedures were developed during Charley for some of the storms that we've gone through since. Have you seen anything like Charley in the 20 years?
Charley was devastating, and the rest of the storms, when I was still employed with the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, because I did retire at one point, Irma came through, which was nothing really compared to Charley. Charley was the worst storm in my career before I retired. And it really opened up a lot of concerns and issues that, like I said, we had good plans and procedures, but there are some things there's always going to be variables that you don't think of.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things was we didn't have water. So we had to bring in water, and then we had to give showers to the inmates. And the idea came up to bring the fire trucks in, and they actually used the hoses and put them in the emergency yards, or in the yards, and allowed inmates to take showers in the yard. That was the way we gave showers, through the hoses.
Wow.
They'd spray them right into the yard. The inmates got a shower, and it just, getting a shower like that is just awesome, to actually have something like that take place. So, but now we've got a well that we can turn on, and we can provide water to all the yards as well, or provide water to the pods and stuff like that. So
Nice.
Charley did do a lot of destruction, but at the same time, it helped us safeguard against future storms, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. I'm sure Hurricane Ian was kind of an intimidating one too for you guys, but having those lessons learned from Charley made a big difference, I'm sure.
Well, Chris, I was not employed during Ian, but it's another little story. I had retired, and we had traveled for the entire time. My wife needed a medical procedure, so we scheduled it, and she needed a month. So we scheduled it. Lo and behold, it was so nice to get away from all the hurricanes in Florida. I came back for Ian. So I was here renting a house in Northport and went through Ian, lost power for a week. And so I just can't get away from the hurricanes. I just can't. Even if I leave for a year and a half, come back for 1 month, I still get hit.
Well, we are glad that you are back at the helm over there. I feel like you kind of came full circle, because you left the jail and you became the chief deputy here. We called you colonel, as I recall. That's right when I started with the agency, and you were doing a lot on this side of the house. And to see you back, kind of where your roots were, that's a great sight for us, I think, to see you go back where you belong, where you fit. And not that you didn't fit here. Whoopsie.
And I really appreciate it. The sheriff was kind enough to give me a way to come back. In the jail, I know it like the back of my hand. I mean, I've done it for so long, so it really was. I appreciate everything. And the family here is incredible. I mean, I get my share of jokes taken at me, but it's a family, and I love being here. Really do.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Well, we are glad you're here.
Yeah, I think I can speak for both Chris and I. We haven't been here for 20 years, but in the short amount of time that we have been here, we feel the family atmosphere every single day.
No doubt. And that's a big thing that I seen during Charley is how people come together. I sat there, I can remember sitting on the second floor in the lobby looking out the windows. And that's when they said that Charley had taken a turn. Because all of us thought it was going north.
Right.
We never thought it was going to turn into Punta Gorda. And it turned, and to see the devastation on all the members' faces, that's probably the biggest thing that a lot of people don't think about is we're separated from our families. We really are. And for Charley, we lost complete communication. So I saw grown men crying, that they didn't know whether their spouse was alive or their house was destroyed. And it took a long time before we got communications back together. And here I am looking out the window. You're seeing dumpsters flying through the air. It was a moment, but I tell you, even after all the stress and the unknown, I would say, they worked 100%. They all came together as a team, and they made us function at 100% operation, even though they didn't know how their family, whether they're safe or not at home. CCO is awesome. They get us home as quick as possible as soon as it's safe to do that. They've always done that. So we got home as quick as we can. But then to see the community, the different agencies come together and support each other, not only the CCSO, but everyone just supported everyone. Just an awesome picture, even though it's a lot of bad stuff as far as destruction. It really, and I hate to say it, but it brings people together. It really does.
It does.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, I experienced it during Ian, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
This community has been through an awful lot with the hurricanes and with the storms. And I think what you're talking about, that internal with the sheriff's office and the communications and the corrections and the law enforcement and the civilians and everybody that comes together, we also see that outside of the agency. We see that in our community.
Definitely.
The way people step up and help each other out and get each other back on their feet so that we can keep moving forward. And I think that's what makes Charlotte County paradise. We keep calling this, we say we're patrolling in paradise. That's what we're doing here. And I think that this is an excellent example of why we say that, there's truth to that. So I know we are short on time here, so I just want to, again, thank you for being a part of the show here today. We'd love to have you back on another time. We can pick more of your brain because you've got a lot of stories there. So
I can tell some
you.
stories, that's for sure.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being. And again, folks, we will have one more guest. We'll have Captain John Heck from the law enforcement side to speak about Hurricane Charley's 20th anniversary with us as well. So thanks a lot. Stay tuned, and we will be back shortly. All right, welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Chris Hall. I'm joined once again by Gabriella Ruiz. Gabriella, give them a what's going on.
What's going on, everybody?
Nice. See, you're getting this down. I'm proud of you. We are joined now by Captain John Heck, who has been with the sheriff's office for how many years now, Cap?
A little over 29 years.
29 years. One more year till you get that flag flying.
Until I get that flag and another badge again.
We can't wait to see that. We love working with you, and you're a lot of fun to work with. And so your wealth of experience is going to be it's great, and we can't wait to tap your brain a little bit about this Hurricane Charley coverage that we're talking about right now.
Absolutely, I'm excited for it.
Perfect. So let's dive right into it. So you were here with the sheriff's office. Do you remember what role you were in back in 2004?
Yes, I was in K-9 at that point. I was a corporal in K-9, and it was just different because never really lived through anything like that, so we were preparing for it.
Now, you were telling me before the show, you remember standing and watching the water, right? Where were you? What was that like? What were you?
So it was at the time it was myself and my Lieutenant Wayne Nieberg, who has since retired. We had video cameras in our cars at the time. We were some of the very few units in the agency that had them. So we decided we were going to park on Bayshore Road in the area where Sunseeker is now, and we were going to watch the harbor empty out because their prediction was the harbor would empty out to where you can almost walk across the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
So as we were sitting there watching the water starting to go down on some of the old pillars there, the water stopped going down. And then all of a sudden the water started creeping back up a little bit, which we said, probably not a good sign at this point. So, literally probably a few minutes later, they came across the radio and advised that the estimates were now that the Hurricane Charley was going to come into Charlotte Harbor. And then the wind started picking up pretty fast right after that. So the lieutenant looked over at me and says, we need to get home at that point. So I remember the drive home, which was really just surreal and crazy with the winds and the traffic lights almost sideways as I was heading home.
Oof. And you were in canine, so you had your canine partner with you.
I did. So I had two at the time. I had two dogs with me, so I carried two. And we had shelters set up for officers, but there was no place for me to go with my two canines. So most of the canine guys back then were going back to their homes. And I lived up in the Murdoch area at that point, over off of Atwater. So I left from Charlotte Harbor area and drove down 41 all the way up to pretty much Murdoch Circle to get back to where my house was. And that's where you could see the winds were just starting to pick up and how crazy it was at that time.
Oof.
So you were out working outside. Were you called in at that point to, or as a corporal, were you still working road patrol kind of? What was your role during the storm?
So at that point, we were just there to supplement anything we needed to do on the road. So I was out. And when they called us all in, so a lot of people don't realize once the winds get up to a certain wind speed, sustained, they call all law enforcement off the road. It's not safe for us to be out there anymore. So I went home. And my ex-wife was there with my children, and I had a newer house. So I parked my patrol vehicle in my driveway. And I didn't have hurricane shutters on my house back then. I looked out the window at one point during some of the really bad winds we were getting, and you could see where my vehicle was getting pushed up off two wheels pretty much to one side.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my.
Yes. So the stories you hear is absolutely just crazy of the wind and everything like that. So we hunkered down in our house until we come. You hear from dispatch that it's all clear, the storm has moved off, and we need units to go back out on the road and start assessing the damage that we had out there.
Since Charlie, have you seen anything like it? We were talking before with Rodgers, and he was saying how a lot of the procedures from Charlie are now what we do for storms today.
Absolutely. I think Charlie was the eye-opener that we really didn't have anything like that. So when Ian came, a lot of the procedures we had in place or developed after Charlie is what we use currently today. And even, with Hurricane Debbie that was passing through tropical storm at the time, we still were activating to a certain level to prepare everybody because unfortunately, it seems like any storm that comes up the coast of Florida loves to dip down into Charlotte Harbor for some reason. So it's always scary when they say, "Oh, it's going." And if they use the words that it's going to hit Tampa, we're a little bit more scared at that point.
100%. If it's hitting Tampa, it's hitting Charlotte County.
Yes, absolutely.
It's those warm Gulf waters that we've got to be keeping mindful of. So today you're the captain, right? And now you're the person who goes over to the Emergency Operations Center and you coordinate those response efforts during and after the storms, right?
Correct.
Or you're one of the people that does some of those things. So what was the coordination like? Now, in your role now as a captain, you're coordinating it. What was it like during Charlie when someone else was coordinating you?
So Charlie, it was different because we lost a lot of infrastructure with Charlie. So we had Pinellas County came in, West Palm Beach came in, and they set up. I was assigned to the Promenade Mall off 41. That was my area as a canine officer because everybody gets assigned to districts back then, and we had 4. It was just, there was no place to eat anymore. Everything was shut down. All the grocery stores were closed down. So we were dependent on FPL supplied a lot of food to us at the time because their logistics is really incredible with what they have for their teams. So we were just, what was going on was just, I would go home. I would drive into Northport, thank goodness, and get gas for my generator at my house to generate my house. It was also hard because I worked 12-hour shifts during the day that I couldn't get to Home Depot. I couldn't get to gas stations during the day, and they all closed because of the curfew. So we've learned to make sure our people are more prepared for what they need to do. I think we've learned lessons. I think the state has learned lessons since then about generators at some of our grocery stores, the gas stations having generators, us having a plan for fuel for not only the sheriff's office operation, but if we can get fuel for our people, because they still have to live and work at the same time. You know, it's very dependent on us. But thank goodness we have a very good support system between, you know, other law enforcement agencies and everything that, honestly, Pinellas and West Palm Beach came rolling in heavy. I mean, they had enough people to work our whole county. We didn't really have to work. And I think that's some of the lessons too, is that we kept some of our people, I feel, on shift a little bit longer when we had that extra support here, where they could have went home and take care of. And our sheriff's been very good about that. If we can get the people home, let them get home and let them assess the damage to their house to take care of their family.
Sure.
Yeah. So hurricanes like Charley, and I'm sure like we saw a little bit of a repeat with Ian, they cause such devastation, and it's a lot of picking up the pieces. Can you speak a little bit about the county itself and how everybody comes together and what the aftermath looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I left my house after Charley, you know, we had to go out and assess, and Veterans Boulevard was a mess. You know, you had to drive around and find routes, drive over the curbs, get past trees, and you had citizens already out there with chainsaws, and they were cutting the trees out of the way. They were pulling them out of the way, so to get everything better. Unfortunately, I had to go to one of the houses where, you know, someone reported a death, and, you know, that was one of the first ones I think we had in the county. We went to it. But, you know, the people were trying to take care of it, clean up, get things moved away, and, you know, comfort and support the family that just lost their loved one due to the storm and everything. So, you know, after Charley, you know, a lot of my responsibility was, which, you know, was disappointing to me as a canine officer. I want to be out at night and, you know, support and make sure no criminal activity. But I was out during the day, and a lot of our responsibilities were go drive around and check on our citizens to make sure they're okay. And, you know, if they needed ice, if they needed, you know, gasoline, if they had power issues, they had anything like that. So we drove around, we did that, and you just saw neighbors helping neighbors back then. You saw everybody just helping everybody. And, you know, that's a sign of Charlotte County, is that I feel that we always have that here, no matter how big we've gotten, and we're growing pretty fast, that you'll always get the neighbors helping the neighbors when they need to, and our community is strong with that.
Yeah.
It definitely fits the Paradise theme that we've been pushing nonstop lately. It's when you're here and you work here and you wear that uniform that you're wearing right now, you are patrolling in Paradise. So
Absolutely.
just want to say thank you, Captain, for being on the show and being a part of this and sharing your memories from that time, that terrible time, and how far we've come. I know that obviously you oversee the entire intelligence unit now,
Yes.
including the community affairs unit now,
Yes,
which
one of the
features.
best units.
It is, I would say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
Public
Yeah.
information team, they are incredible. They're all
Yes.
stars.
Yeah.
So.
Good
Yes.
people. Good people.
We're going to let you get back to overseeing them and
I
writing
appreciate
those
it.
commendations that you were working on. So thank you for joining us today. And thank you
Absolutely.
to all of our listeners. Stay tuned. We'll be doing more and more of these podcasts in the coming days and weeks and months. And we really look forward to growing and sharing more stories with you guys, and teaching you a little more about the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office and what it means to be patrolling in Paradise. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you again next time.